Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad you're here this morning. Got a great show lined up. We'll get started. Our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin Road and Highway 77. Remember, check out their number is 767-5500. Give them a call for any kind of needs for your future endeavors. Today's going to be a high of only 85. These mornings have been really nice. A low of 66. So that's the lowest we've had in a long time. Water temperature remains at 84 degrees. Our river readings, again, we talked about these yesterday, they're in good shape. They're dropping a little bit. Apalachicola is at a 2.5 and a steady drop for the weekend. The Choctawhatchee just looks really nice. It's at a 3.3 this morning and looking good over there. Our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. We talked about this again yesterday. For the next couple of days, we're in these neap tides. Today is on the screen you're looking there at September the 23rd, and we're looking at a 24th, and we're looking at a really just a neap tide. Not much going on today or tomorrow, but this weekend is going to pick it up a little bit. So be aware of that. The marine forecast will be northeast at about 10 to 20. All right, that takes care of our marine weather and everything's going on the rivers and the bays. So we'll take our break and be back with our special guest. Welcome back, and welcome Captain Ken Paramore.
Good morning. Back again.
Always great to have Ken on the show because we have so much information to disperse to all of our viewers. And we were talking about off there just a minute ago. We're in this transition period, fishing and all that. And I guess the FWC, you guys in the same kind of period.
Yeah, there's no lag time anymore. It seems like we roll, from one activity to the other. And I know you mentioned the cooler weather. It is nice, and I'm sure the guys in the field appreciate it the most. It's probably one of the first weeks and then upcoming weekend maybe that they haven't been soaking wet with sweat, being out and trying to work, and at least it'll be a little bit more comfortable as far as their work goes. But when you talked about the transition, we've gone from we haven't gone from it completely yet, but we've gone from most of the summer boating and fishing. Right now there's probably some kingfishing still going on. I did have a friend of mine went to Crooked Island Sound Sunday morning, I believe it was, and caught a handful of flounder, wade fishing and illegal redfish. But it's pretty much, there are a few boats still grouper fishing because gag is still open. But as you know, it's winding down, and as these fronts start coming through, it'll get rough offshore. And a lot of people are aggravated because of the snapper. It's hard to get down to the grouper because the snapper in the way and taking the bait unless you use really specialized baits or big baits. But we are transitioning into which brings me to dove season is opening early this year. Traditionally, it's always been the first Saturday in October, and we've moved it up to this. They've moved it up to this Saturday, which is. Shoot, my whole career, it's been the first Saturday in October. So,
well, do you know any reason why
I don't know why. I haven't heard. Obviously, it's good for our outdoorsmen and sportsmen that, the ones who avidly dove hunt. If we have nice weather, I haven't heard any reports of any numbers of birds being anywhere. But for those who have planted for it and are ready for it, I'm sure at least the opportunity to go and have that traditional dove shoot will be fun. So. Dove opens this Saturday. I believe it's the 27th, and which is probably our first opportunity. Yeah, our first opportunity to get guns out of the closet in the house and buy some shotgun shells and take the kids and some dove stools and go sit on the edge of a field if you have that opportunity. But there are some things that come with that we need to let people know. And our phone's been ringing off the hook this week about baiting. And what's legal and how is it legal to bait, particularly as it relates to doves. And a lot of people get misinformation, which I just indicated a few minutes ago when we were talking off air that we had a call yesterday of an individual who had been told by someone that it was legal to broadcast and bait a field with birdseed prior to. and which is the furthest thing from the law, and particularly the federal law. You can't distribute, broadcast any grain, seeds, you know, on the top of the ground at any time for baiting doves. If people have planted and their crops are up, let's say it's millet or milo or some of that other, or even corn for that matter, and they mow it, you know, or they harvest it and they spill it, that's an agricultural process, and that would be legal. But to go out with a spreader and a broadcaster and spread bird seed or crack corn, it's not legal, and it's going to be obvious on top of the ground. And even if you did that prior to the season with the intent of attracting birds, the federal law reads that it has to be 10 days after the last piece is there or visible or can be seen. So if you scatter it out and it's still on the ground, it doesn't matter the amount of time. If it's gone, then you have to wait 10 days. So it's not really practical, and it's not legal to broadcast.
Yeah. It's not worth the time to fool with it.
No, it's really not worth the time to fool with it. Those who know how and have the you know, the place to do that have had, you know, their crops have been in the ground, and hopefully for their sake they've topped out, and you know, they've mowed some rows or whatever, and that takes some planning. But or you get in a natural roost place, or you know, a pine tree area where they're coming and going out of pine trees. A lot of people hunt them that way.
Yeah.
But the baiting is important. U.S. Fish and Wildlife, you know, is serious, as well as we are, about that type of enforcement. The bag limit is 15, so you can take 15 a day. The shooting hours are noon to sunset, and that's another key thing with dove hunting. It's not a half an hour after like other game in the state of Florida. So when the newspaper or the time charts say sunset, that's when you have to stop. It's not when it's too dark to see, or you see the muzzle blast, you know, when they're flying. You have to stop at sunset for doves. So it's kind of it in a nutshell. I haven't, like I say, I haven't heard of any numbers.
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it. I think this week early sort of catching them a little bit off guard, because I think we're all programmed as outdoorsmen, and in October is when we start thinking about dove, and now all of a sudden it's upon us. But
and down here, you know, it normally takes some cold fronts to get them down.
Really
we always have resident birds year round, but not in the numbers after we get some cold spells from up north.
Right.
But hey, at least they can get in the field and enjoy themselves.
That's right. All right, let's take this quick break. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back. We're talking about some father-son things, and we're going to show this picture. We'll explain why we're laughing. Tell us about this picture here, Ken. First of all, you and I have been so busy we haven't been able to fish.
No, I haven't been able to go, and I came home from work yesterday afternoon, and my truck and my boat were gone. And of course, I know when my truck and my boat's gone, I know who has it. And he's home for 2 weeks. He works out in Texas. And
this is your oldest son?
My oldest son, Matt, and,
and
his fiancee, Jennifer.
Okay.
And I knew, and he's a fanatic about trying to catch dolphin and, you know, mahi, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I knew when I came home, the truck and the boat were gone, what was going on. So when they came home, he was about 5 miles off and found those two trolling, and so they boated them, and so we got fresh mahi at home. At least I reaped some of the benefits of him going fishing.
That's good. I was telling Ken, I finally learned the trick of this. What you got to do, you got to sell your boat to your son, and then you borrow it from him.
I think that's what I'm going to do next.
That's what I've done now. So
it leaves the house more with him in it than it does with me in it anymore for some reason, and I've had the boat a long time. So.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he gets to go and enjoy it.
I know.
You know,
nice fish too.
Yeah, they were. Nice dolphin for this time of year.
Yeah.
And like I say, those are about 5 miles off the pass, which I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about saltwater fishing. Of course, those things move around so much, and you kind of got to either look for them or target them. But they're pretty good eating fresh. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. So what else you have?
Scallops. We do need to remind everybody that scallop ends today.
That's correct.
Last day of scallop season. It's been a kind of a dismal scallop season for most people. It didn't live up to the expectations. As you know, I didn't go because
Very much.
the words I got and talking to my officers down there, to me it wasn't worth the effort, to go other than just to recreate, which is nice to be on the water. But scallop ends today. Also wanted to talk real quick back when I was talking about late shooting. Early duck season is open, and we have had complaints about people shooting late on Deer Point Lake while duck hunting. And the same thing applies to ducks as it does to doves. The shooting hours need to end at sunset. And the birds are going to roost, and that's the reason for the law, is to allow the birds to get to the roost. Obviously, for a lot of people, it's fun to shoot about that time of day because they're flying.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's hard to get them to quit. But for duck hunting as well as doves, the legal shooting hours is sunset. And there is still light between legal sunset and either dark or dusk, which is a short window, but it's a problem if you late shoot. And if you wait too late to late shoot, another part of the law, or the reason for the law, is losing birds, and then it's dark and you can't find them. And if you start blasting them when it's dusk and all you can see is your muzzle blast, and then you have to, by the time you get squared away when it's time to leave and go look for them, you're going to waste some birds and not be able to find them. So it's there for a reason, and I know it's hard to quit when birds are flying, but it's unfortunately the way it is. We can talk a little bit about hunter education. We're getting a lot of requests for the classes now, and we always do this time of year. A lot of states that require hunter education to be able to purchase their license, their seasons are open now. So for people who are wanting to go out west or up north to hunt in those states, there's kind of a scramble at the last minute for those who haven't, and a lot of times for their children that don't have their hunter ed classes yet. So those are filling up, and I've been seeing our calendars here recently that pretty much every county in the Panhandle has some going on throughout the month of September and probably October to get people, their hunter education classes. So a reminder, if you need it or haven't had it, contact our Deer Point office or go online to myfwc.com and look into the hunter education classes that are upcoming and and or available. So we can talk a little bit about archery. I know it's early, and I'll probably be here. I know I'll be back here one more time before archery opens, but it is October 25th, and you will be able to hunt with a crossbow during archery again this year. It'll be an either sex hunt. You can, male or female, and that'll run for a month before we get into the muzzleloader. So that's a little preliminary, and it's about a month away, but there again, those hunter ed classes for people who haven't or plan on taking their kids, the first time this year because they've become of age. They need to get the class out of the way. So, contact our offices.
Okay. I know one thing. We were talking about shooting late on Deer Point Lake. You mentioned a minute ago. I'd heard some other folks talk about that too, and it is so tempting to shoot those birds coming in because they are active then. But like I say, it's not sportsmanlike. First of all, it's illegal, but second of all, it's not sportsmanlike. And really,
and sunset is sunset, and our officers use discretion, with enforcement of that. But after a period of time, the discretion starts leaning towards the way of taking enforcement action because of how late it starts to get. We do know when we hit, and I've had them. Travis Bassford was on the water just Saturday afternoon late on Deer Point. I know because I heard him. So we have been there, whether we're in the right spot at the right time, but they know when they get on the water or go to work duck hunting what legal sunset is. They check the legal time. So when that time comes is when they start looking at their watch, and then obviously watching people. And most people start packing up, and you can tell they're done. And the ones who are still in the shooting stance and mode, they're going to bear watching.
Yeah, good.
So, but most people do comply. Your avid duck hunters know.
Oh yeah.
And they behave. And but it is tempting when they're flying into a cypress head or a cypress roost, and you're there.
It seems like the younger you are, the more tempting it is as you get
well,
older.
they'll get educated.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you get your driver's license. They get educated early about what those costs for those fines are.
Exactly right. And
it educates you.
We don't need to have stories way back when you're teenagers and all, because I always blame that just not knowing any better. But now we all know better. So, all right, we have a great case of the month. We're going to take a while to tell it. So we're going to go and take our break and then come back and talk about our case of the month. All right, welcome back. Here with Captain Ken Paramore from FWC. Let's go over our fishing game time for the day in case you had a great opportunity to get outside. We're looking at this morning 12:31 to 2:31, but this right after lunch at 12:53 to 2:53, basically 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock today, brought to us by Mark Coward of Edgewater Beach Realty. All right, now let's talk about our case of the month. You told me give me a little preview of it. It's fascinating.
It is, and you know, a lot of the cases of the month that I talk about happen here in our area and involve what I call my officers, because I have about 30 of them under me, and I call them mine. But they're the boots on the ground, and normally what I've been reporting is stuff that they do. Well, this involves about a whole squad of my officers in Washington County, but not as much boots on the ground. It was more of in an assist role. Long story short, last October, so we're talking almost a year ago, we received information about a group of people in North Washington, South Holmes County, that had gone to Illinois and had killed some deer illegally and brought them back to Florida. Well, right there's an issue with Florida law because of the CWD, the importation of we heard that they brought the heads back for mounting. So the heads will have the brain material, spinal cord, and you can't bring those back because of CWD rule. So it has to be caped out. You bring back the cape and the horns, which we know. So that triggered a Florida investigation right there. So Lieutenant Warren Walsingham up in Washington County got in touch with DNR officer in Illinois and told him what we'd received information here, were they interested in it? And of course the answer was yes. So we supplied them with the names of people, or a couple names of people that we had been given by a local person here. They checked their records and found that these same people had purchased licenses in Illinois, but they'd only purchased what they called an antlerless deer tag, no buck tags. And then they checked the certain vendor that those were purchased from and found that there were a couple other acquaintances from down here that bought licenses the same day. So that was kind of our 4 people that we thought when we started with 2. So we understood that they had the deer heads possibly at a taxidermist, so we flooded the taxidermists up north of here, and we didn't find any deer heads. So then they got back with DNR in Illinois, and they said, well, we need the heads. Would you all please go interview the people? So we had the names. Warren got his squad of officers together, and they split up because there was 3 or 4 people they wanted to talk to. So they got together with pairs of officers and went simultaneously to these people's residences to talk to them. In other words, to hit them at the same time. And they did, and some were cooperative and some weren't. And the one that was cooperative, he had, I think, 3 or 4 heads in his freezer. And he had a story about he'd gone up there to a farm in Illinois, and he hunted on a farm. And of course, we already knew they didn't have any buck tags. And then we followed up further. The DNR officer in Illinois went to the farmer. He couldn't corroborate that story. That didn't fit. And so finally one of them came off of it and said that, well, they'd just gone up there and rode around it, I think late evening and maybe even at night. And they shot these 4 deer, and they were a couple trophy bucks, because Illinois is known for trophies.
Right.
and had brought them back. So we seized the 4 deer heads, and we didn't have any charges pending yet. So we let Illinois know what we had. We packaged up and shipped all 4 heads to Illinois, so they could do their analysis, and we got them out of, back out of Florida. Long story short, they filed charges on everybody, and the end of June, early July this year, the one person so far that has gone through the system, he had to hire a certified attorney that can work in Illinois. He had to travel, for court, and he was fined $4,000 for those 4 deer heads, $1,000 a piece, because they were at his house. And he's also suspended from hunting, not only in Illinois, but he'll be suspended in any state that is in that compact agreement, where if your license gets suspended in one state, the other states enforce it the same way. So it goes to show that we do work across state lines, and we are adamant about what we do, and other states are adamant about what they do. Yeah. So you just can't go off somewhere else and violate and hope to get away with it here sometime.
Well, that just some great detective work on you guys, and they just stay after that like that.
They did, and Warren is good at that investigative work anyway, and he was able to spearhead his officers and channel them and get the information that we needed to help Illinois, draw this to a conclusion. And I can tell you, if I got popped for $4,000 for a few deer heads,
well, that's expensive. I mean,
I would have learned my lesson.
It's not worth it.
No.
It really isn't.
No.
And so you think they probably got them at night or something? Probably.
I think there was some night hunting or right at dusk and riding around on other people's properties and taking them without, proper licensing. But it goes to show that wildlife enforcement can be done across state lines because we all cooperate with each other.
Good ending to that story.
It was.
Well, Ken, as always, we appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Anytime. Enjoy it.
We'll see you next month.
Okay, we'll do.
All right, folks. Well, thank y'all for watching Panhandle Outdoors. We appreciate the viewership. Do something good for someone else today, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.